Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I'm your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names and kicking candy ass. Live in living color here with you on Grande's Graveyard. Welcome back to another edition of the show. And yes, I know it's anticipated because I know people seem to really love this format. It is yet another edition of a versus episode. Yes, in the past we've done The Thing versus Alien. We have also done Willard the original versus Willard the remake. And now it is time for the Battle of Road horror movies from the year 2001, where we discuss Joyride from 2001 and also Jeepers Creepers. Yes, so Joyride takes on Jeepers Creepers here tonight, a battle of 2001 road horror movies, if you will. I'm super excited. We have 10 categories, 2 movies, and absolutely zero regrets on Grande's Graveyard tonight. I hope everyone is doing well. Miss C was in the house before we even kicked this son of a bitch off. Ciao, Grande and friends. We're having bad weather and Wi-Fi is sketchy, so I may not be able to stay for the whole show. That is no problem at all. I appreciate you getting here at all. I really do appreciate the support as always. And I said, is this Miss C? Because I'm looking for Candy Cane. Yeah, no, she said, funny you should say that. I used to know a girl named Candy. That is awesome. Slasher Fred is in the house. Joyride seems like a teenage version of Duel. Both movies having a huge truck as the main antagonist. Yeah, no, we could have definitely done Duel versus Joyride for sure. But I actually found these two so similar. And the fact that they were released like almost about a month apart. This was, I believe, late August of 2001. And this was first week of October of 2001. And unfortunately, this movie really bombed at the box office due to, I think, of course, the September 11th attacks of the previous month. And this movie made a lot of money at the box office. I think it was almost $60 million hit and it, on a budget of 10, whereas this had like a $20 million budget, made like 36. So definitely when compared to box office wise, Jeepers Creepers was the way to go here. But that's not a category. We have 10, of course, subjective categories, and we're going to go in order. So I'm super excited about that. Mateo is here. Ciao, Grande. Hi, everyone. Ignorance is bliss. Haven't seen either movie. Oh, wow. Okay. I honestly recommend both. I think they're fantastic, and I think this is going to be a really close versus episode. So I'm excited to go category by category, one by one. Of course, the last category is ending versus ending, Mateo. So I will, of course, warn you of that. So, spoilers will be discussed. So I don't want to deter you or anything, but I definitely think these are two well worth watching horror movies, in my opinion. Mickey Screams is in the house here for Joyride. Hell yeah, we got a Joyride vote. I did a Instagram poll. And Jeepers Creepers blew Joyride out of the water. It was like 79% to 21% in favor of Jeepers Creepers. However, on here, Joyride, on YouTube, Joyride took the poll over. So it seems like one won one and one won the other. I guess this will decide. This will decide the whole goddamn thing. But Nikki, welcome to the graveyard. Pleasure to have you. And everybody, I hope you're all doing well. It's been a crazy last few weeks, but we're going to get into things and kick things off, ladies and gents, because we have got the PowerPoint. Yes, the Google Drive PowerPoint. We have 10 categories. We'll run through them before we go one by one. Of course, Joyride versus Jeepers Creepers. We'll have one sheet versus one sheet, plot versus plot, lead versus lead. Of course, Paul Walker versus Justin Long, female lead versus female lead, Lily Sobieski versus Gina Phillips, villain versus villain, the Creeper versus, of course, Rusty Nail, director versus director, John Dahl versus Victor Salva. Musical score versus musical score. Writing versus writing, of course, J.J. Abrams and Clay Tarver there. Scare sequences versus scare sequences. And finally, ending versus ending. So 10 categories. Each category is worth a point. And of course, we're doing the old school point system. Whichever one ends with the most points is obviously our winner of the night. So you can vote down below. You can let me know as we go category by category which one you favor, why you favor it. You may right off the bat go with one, like Nikki said, Joyride. I see Sean Blue Digital's in the house. What's up, everyone? And he says, give me the Creeper. All right, so we're mixed in we got a Joyride, we got a Creeper. I think Miss C is a Joyride gal, so if I'm not mistaken. Okay. I'm sorry. I spoke too soon. If we're talking first entry only, Jeepers Creepers as a whole. So we got two Creeper. So it seems like we got mixed people here, but no worries. As we go category by category, even if you feel one way or the other overall, you might just be leaning towards one over the other. So I'm super excited tonight. Cheers. I actually downed my water before, so I have nothing to cheers. Cheers, everybody. Hope you all have a wonderful, safe week and a safe weekend upcoming. And we're going to get right underway with one sheet versus One Sheet. Now, I'll be honest, I think this is I love this category generally, but I don't really care for either one of these posters. It's funny, they both have like this, like that dirty yellow type look on them. Partially, I'm going to lean Joyride here just because I like that they have the cast on there. It's almost like they were coming out of the late 90s where it was Scream and Urban Legend and I Know What You Did Last Summer, that whole neo slasher era where, they had all these young people, these good-looking people stand in black T-shirts and cross their arms on the fucking covers. It looks like they took a piece of that. Like, okay, let's have our three good-looking leads on the cover, but we'll also have the candy cane truck and the car and all that. So I like this One Sheet slightly better than Jeepers Creepers, where honestly you see this and you don't really get a good idea. Like, yeah, that is the creeper, but I mean, what is he really looking out of? Like, I don't know. I think that's kind of a weak theatrical poster, but overall, I mean, Jeepers Creepers sold way more tickets and made a lot more money. So maybe the Jeepers Creepers poster was better. Maybe the trailer was better. I'm not sure. But for this category, Joyride is going to get out to the early 1-0 lead. So we are all the way into one category, 1-0 Joyride early on. Ben Grimm's here, Creeper over Rusty. Okay, fair enough. That's a category. Nice Possession shirt, and I absolutely love that movie. Dude, man, Possession is one of my all-time favorite horror movies, and I love this. My friend Billy actually just picked this up now. The Isabella Johnny character here, she's green on my shirt. On his shirt, she's blue. So there must be more than one of these with different color schemes. I thought that was quite interesting. I don't remember where I got this, to be perfectly honest, but I'm a big, big fan of the movie, so happy to hear you like it. There was another movie called Joyride that starred Tobey Maguire. That's right. And that was, I believe, mid-90s. There's been a bunch of movies called Joyride, but of course tonight we are talking about the horror one. Although I like the third Joyride over the third Jeepers Creepers, Rusty goes full trucker slasher, all the kills a truck related. It didn't also, by the third entry, and I'll say this right off the bat, I don't think either of these movies ever needed sequels. Like, especially Joyride. I don't think you ever needed a sequel to this. Like, to me, perfect standalone. This movie, I get why they did a sequel, because it was like, this unkillable monster and all these things, and you could up the body count. And I like Jeepers Creepers 2 for sure. It's definitely better than Joyride 2 or Joyride 3 or whatever. But I would say the Jeepers Creepers 3 and 4 are for the birds. I mean, nobody likes those movies. I don't know a soul that likes Jeepers Creepers 3 or 4. But Joyride, I don't know. I definitely think this one definitely should have been a one-off, like a one standalone movie. It's a shame that it wasn't. Connor Nelson is in the house. That's got to be a first-time name. Connor, welcome, my friend. Joyride is much more tense. They're in danger nearly the whole film. JC only has a few moments. Okay, so we got another Joyride fan in the house. Welcome, Mr. Connor Nelson. I own all the Joyride movies, and it depends on if we're talking as a whole or first movie only. Well, tonight's first movie only. I would say first movie only. That don't concern yourself about the sequels, because honestly, aside from Jeepers Creepers 2, I don't think there's a sequel to watch here when it comes to these two trilogy franchises, even though now Jeepers Creepers has reached to number 4, I believe. So One Sheet versus One Sheet. Joyride is out to the 1-0 lead. Now let's go to the next category here is plot versus plot. I have brief plot synopsis for both. I guess we can go in the order of the pictures. We, of course, have Jeepers Creepers on top, and I have a brief plot synopsis. A brother and sister driving home through isolated countryside for spring break encounter a flesh-eating creature, which is in the midst of its ritualistic eating spree. Yes, Jeepers Creepers. And then, of course, for Joyride, 3 young people on a road trip from Colorado to New Jersey talk to a trucker on their CB radio, then must escape when he turns out to be a psychopathic killer. Yes. Jeepers Creepers and Joyride. Okay, plot versus plot. Now, this is the reason I really wanted to do this versus episode, because they're so damn similar. You have 2 siblings in both movies. They're driving cross country in both movies. They get stalked by a trucker in both movies. The trucker is a killer in both movies. Of course, we have our differences. One is a human, one is a kind of a creature. Okay, that's where we get our first big major difference. And then, of course, horror and suspense and action and all of these things kind of play out in both films. I really like the plots for both of these. I think they're really, really good plots. And I'm always a sucker for a good road, any kind of movie. Like, I like road movies. I just do. And road horror is especially something that I've always preferred. Like, I love road horror movies. And I think these are 2 that really stand out amongst the creme de la creme. I mean, I love, of course, the opening of Jeepers Creepers. A lot of people don't realize this, but if you ever watch the show Unsolved Mysteries, the opening like 20 minutes is ripped off from Unsolved Mysteries. Now, I believe it was season 3, episode 21, I want to say, of Unsolved Mysteries, where he basically, Victor Salva, the writer and director, he ripped off that segment where it was this group, this husband and wife in the episode. They were driving cross country. They got, followed by this trucker, and they saw him throw someone in like bloody sheets and white clothing tied up down a drain pipe. And then he tail chased them and stuff like that, honked his horn, all this crazy shit. And basically Victor Salva saw that and ripped it off and put it as the first 20 minutes of his film. And even to the point where if you watch the episode of Unsolved Mysteries, you see that they are talking and playing the license plate game where they're saying, oh, whatever. And they use that in the film, which I thought, wow, like they were shameless here. Like this is totally, he watched that episode and went, there's my first 20 minutes of my hour and a half movie. Like very, very funny, I thought, and actually like quite blatant. And then of course, Joyride, you have Paul Walker, who's more of the straight brother of the two. He kind of is in love with this girl, Lily Sobieski's character, and he's picking up his brother, Steve Zahn, from prison. And basically, Steve Zahn being a bad influence on him, they start talking on the CB radio and start flirting with Candy Cane. Hey, I'm looking for Candy Cane. Hey, Candy Cane, I like my pink champagne. All that shit. So, I think both plots here are pretty good. Both setups are pretty good. I'm going to lean towards Jeepers Creepers, though. I think number one, the best thing that they did here was they did boy and girl, right? Attractive guy, attractive girl. We've seen that 1,000 times. Making them brother and sister, I think, was the smartest thing they could have done here. If they were in a relationship or husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, that dynamic instantly changes. And I think it would have worked towards the detriment of the film. I really like that they're brother and sister here, and I thought they played off of each other quite well in this movie. So I would lean towards the setup of Jeepers Creepers and the plot of Jeepers Creepers a little bit better. The idea of that there's this mass, killings and this Sistine Chapel of bodies that the creeper has all sewn together and stuff like that. I thought that was really effective and really good way to kind of kick off your film and then, building the tension as it goes. I think I'm going to give this point to Jeepers Creepers. So far we are tied at 1-1, but let's go back to the comments. Let's check things out. Let's see. Sean Blue Digital says, yeah, I only care for Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2. Joyride has eluded my collection, but I'll fix that soon. Dude, I recommend. Now, I don't believe it's on the Blu-ray. Now, on the DVD, you get the alternate ending, which is about a half hour of, footage. I love this alternate ending better than the ending they used. I would double check if it's on the Blu-ray, definitely go with that blue. But man, if it's not, the DVD is the way to go with Joyride. That's why I actually have the DVD. I believe that it's not on the Blu-ray, but it is on the DVD, weirdly enough. So that's why I have the DVD, because I like the alternate ending, and we'll get there when we get to ending versus ending. How does the creeper get a truck with a custom plate, a truck that can drive itself also? Well, I believe in the sequel, in the third one, it drives itself, right? I don't think in this movie that it does, which the truck doesn't make an appearance in the second movie, weirdly enough. Justin Long was the kid from Teenage Movie in the early 2000s. He was great in Waiting. Yes, he was. He was also in Dodgeball. He's just done so many good movies. I love Justin Long, and we're about to get into Lead versus Lead, so it won't be long. Rusty kind of reminds me of a killer from High Tension, not the girl. Oh, no, I know what you're talking about. The short in stature, guy who's giving himself a decapitated blowjob. I mean, you got to love fucking High Tension. Jeepers Creepers had starred the late Eileen Brennan, who was in a lot of movies. She was known for appearing in the 80s comedy Private Benjamin. That's right. And she's the lady who she comes outside with the shotgun, right? And that ain't my scarecrow. And she shoots I love that shit, man. That is a lot of fun. I like that sequence for sure. But so far we're deadlock tied at 1-1. The plot setup goes to Jeepers Creepers. Now let's move on into Lead versus Lead. Of course, we have Paul Walker here, the late Paul Walker, may he rest in peace, taking on Justin Long. Now, I'll say this right off the bat. I like Paul Walker, and I think Paul Walker was one of those guys that I liked more as I got on with his filmography. Like when I first saw him, first exposed to him, I kind of always thought, okay, he's the pretty boy, like a lot of people's initial responses and reactions to a Robert Pattinson is kind of how I had the initial reaction to a Paul Walker, right? Like I remember seeing him in this movie called Pleasantville, of course, with Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon, and they get into this TV where everything is in black and white and old school, and he's kind of the pretty boy in the school, and he's flirting with Reese Witherspoon and saying "golly gee" and all that shit. I always kind of saw him as that pretty boy character. Of course, Fast and the Furious was the same year as this, which became and still is a franchise that is going to this day. I mean, it's 2023 and Fast and Furious is still churning out movies. They're about to hit double digits whenever this next one gets released. And it's a shame. I will have to be honest here. I didn't really appreciate Paul Walker as much until he was gone. It was one of those things where I realized how good he was after he had passed away. And I'm ashamed to say that, but I'll be truthful in saying that as well. I really thought he was a good actor, a solid actor. And I think he does a good job here. He's really given more of the straight performance of the two, whereas Steve Zahn is definitely given more acting ability and chops to do because he's this brother that ran away from home and kind of hated the father and kept getting in trouble with the law and running from police his whole life. And he's kind of the problem child, whereas Paul Walker kind of has all of his shit together. He's in love with this pretty girl. And, he's really more of the straight-laced one of the two. There's not much there for him to really grow in as far as an arc goes. And then, of course, you have Justin Long in Jeepers Creepers. And man, I think he gives the performance of his career here. I really like Justin Long in this movie because generally, like Mateo was saying, he's in, a Waiting or a Dodgeball where he's this kind of goofy, likable character. And then people would remember him from Tusk, and, horror fans from last year will remember him from Barbarian. But I don't think that he's ever found a role quite as good as this one here where he plays Derry in Jeepers Creepers. I love his performance in this movie as he was trying to convince his sister, hey, what if it was you down there? What if it was you down that dark, dirty drain pipe? And what if it was somebody you loved down there? Like, let me go down there. Let me do this. And she tries to convince him, the part in a horror movie where somebody does something stupid and everyone hates them for it. This is it. That line was very neo-slasher Kevin Williamson written all over it, even though Kevin Williamson did not have his fingers on this, but it felt like it. I liked his whole performance here. And I love towards the end when he's talking with the psychic lady who sucks, Giselle, where he grabs her. He's Jeepers Creepers, right? Who is it that you hear screaming in the darkness? Who hears Jeepers Creepers screaming? I mean, he's great. And I think, some of the dramatic scenes where he has to sell the fear with his eyes and his face. And, it's a fucked up version of the Sistine Chapel. I mean, he's fucking great. And apparently he knows my name now because the creeper went through all of his laundry. I mean, Justin Long's performance here is intense, is believable, is slightly heartbreaking, especially, if you know what happens to his character. I really think he gave the performance of a career here. I really love Justin Long in this movie. And I don't mean to, bury Paul Walker or speak ill of Paul Walker, because like I said, he's a guy that I appreciated as he went on. And it's somebody that I wish I liked more when he was still working, I think he maybe could have been a big star, like a Robert Pattinson is slowly but surely becoming now. Like, you look at Robert Pattinson, he started with The Twilight and The Goblet of Fire and Pretty Boy, Sparkle Vampire, and he kind of completely reinvented himself when he did all these independent movies with the Safdie brothers, and of course The Lighthouse with Robert Eggers, and of course now he's Batman. I mean, it seems like Pattinson is growing year by year, becoming a bigger and bigger star. I really think that Paul Walker might have been that guy, right? You have that franchise in Fast and Furious to kind of fall back on, and he could have grown into, I think, a great, serious, independent actor as well. It's kind of just a shame that he died so young and he didn't get that opportunity. It's actually quite heartbreaking. So, my heart and my sorrow goes for Paul Walker, but I got to say what I'm honest about here, and I think Justin Long has to win the lead versus lead performance here, and Jeepers Creepers is going to get another point. So Jeepers Creepers moves up 2-1. I will say this, if Steve Zahn, if I put Steve Zahn against Long, I think it'd be even tougher, because I definitely think Steve Zahn has a lot more to do in this movie and definitely more of a character arc, and I think he's the best actor in Joyride. So it's quite tough, but I'm going to go Justin Long over a Paul Walker here. So, interesting, but let's go back to the comments here. I have a lot of nostalgia for Jeepers Creepers because first watched it with my cousin. I kept telling him I heard something. He thought I was messing around with him. Turned out his buddy was knocking, looking for him. Oh my God, that's amazing. I love stories like that. Very cool. LO, maybe the creeper just borrowed the truck from Duel. Both truckers look so similar. Yeah, no, it's possible. It's definitely, I see a lot of Duel influence in both of these movies, especially in Joyride when you have the whole gas station sequence, which is I'm going to talk about in scare sequences when we get there. But that whole sequence feels like it was ripped out of Duel, so it's very interesting. Aiden is in the house. Hello, everybody. Welcome, my friend. What's up, Aiden? Justin Long always has bad luck in horror films. That's true. He is cursed in horror films for sure. Justin Long was in Galaxy Quest 2, if I'm correct. Really? I don't remember him in Galaxy Quest. I trust you, Mateo. I don't know off the top of my head. I would have to look that up. But no, I love Justin Long, and I think I would dare to say this is the best performance of his career. But let's move on into our fourth category. This is female lead versus female lead. Of course, Lily Sobieski versus Gina Phillips. Yes. So right off the bat, this is another really interesting one for me because I'm astonished that neither one of these actresses really went on to do all that much. Both of them, I think, are pretty. I would say Gina Phillips, especially. I think Gina Phillips is a beautiful woman. But, it's quite interesting to me when I look at the palettes of both of their careers. I mean, just a few years before this, Lily Sobieski was in a bit role in Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. And, of course, I believe around the same time was this movie called The Glass House. Gina Phillips, I only really remember ever doing one other thing that I could think of note, which would be Dead and Breakfast, which was like a zombie comedy in the mid 2000s. I want to say around 2004. I remember seeing her in that and then maybe some small TV roles here and there. But neither one of them went on to do all that much. And it's actually quite surprising to me. Now, I will say that I can understand why in maybe Lily's case, because I do think Gina Phillips is probably a better actress overall. But that's not to say that I don't think Lily Sobieski does a really good job in her performance in Joyride. Now, her character really isn't prominent until the last maybe 40 minutes of it, because the first half of it is Paul Walker and Steve Zahn going across the country, siblings, and they, of course, I'm looking for candy cane and all that stuff. Then they pick her up about halfway through the film, and she's good for what she has to do. Basically, she likes Paul Walker's character, but they also have a thing where maybe she likes Steve Zahn's character. I liked that dynamic where does she like both brothers? And it seems like she romantically does. Of course, I know this is a movie that had tremendous amount of reshoots. So there were certain scenes where Lily Sobieski and Steve Zahn ended up together. There's certain cuts where she ends up with Paul Walker. There's certain scenes where they don't have any kind of anyone end up with anybody. There's so many alternate endings and deleted scenes and things like that for this movie. So it's funny, if you watch it, you could kind of get the feeling that she likes both of them. And you definitely can tell Steve Zahn likes her. So I think she did a good job. I actually would argue that she had better chemistry with Steve Zahn than she did with Paul Walker. I liked that dynamic a little bit better when he was like sneaking in there and, hey, you want to drink? And you want to drink with your boyfriend's weird brother, And I thought she was good. And I especially, I think the scene where she's talking with Rusty Nail as he makes them go into the diner and order the cheeseburgers. I love how she's talking to Rusty Nail in that scene as she breaks down. I think it's really good acting from Lily's standpoint where she says, I think sometimes people don't really think, and she's looking around and crying hysterically like, oh my God, like this poor guy. And I love the Rusty Nail character. He has that kind of moment where you do feel a little bit bad. You do feel a little bit sympathetic where he says, now they know what it feels like to be the butt end of a joke, your palms sweating, your face burning up. Now they know what it's like to be the fucking punchline. And you could see now, while she knows that Rusty Nail was a crazy son of a bitch and she knows he's up to no good and she knows he's bad news, there's a part of her that did feel bad about the situation and felt, oh shit, like it shouldn't have came to this. It shouldn't come to this. Like, I'm sorry that this all went down. And I think her eyes and her crying in that scene is quite powerful. It's quite strong. I like Lily Sobieski in this film. I think she does a good job. And now on the other coin of that is, of course, Gina Phillips, who, of course, is playing off of Justin Long as the sister. And I think she was really good, too. She was good looking. She was strong. She was confident. I like her character a lot as well. I think she was pretty tough. And I don't know, like, as it's funny, as an actress, I think she's a little bit better. Like, she has a better screen presence. She brings a little bit more oomph to the role than Lily does. I would say Lily is much more monotone, whereas Gina Phillips is definitely, she's not running and screaming or anything through most of it, but she's definitely stronger. Like you can get the sense that she's a tougher character. And there's a great scene where she's driving over the creeper. She drives him, then runs over him, drives him, runs over him. Like she keeps back and forward. And Justin Long's like, enough, he's dead. And she looks at him, they never are, which is again another very neo slasher type deal where she's running over the creeper over and over. I love that. I thought that was really good. And she was strong in the movie. I will say this, I don't know if they did the right thing here at the end where they switched it where you're led to believe she's going to be the one taken. I don't know. Part of me wishes that maybe she would have been taken over Justin Long's character, but at the same time, he was so likable that it's more heart wrenching, I guess, for the viewer. I guess, like, I don't know. I always felt that maybe she should have been the one taken at the end, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It's tough. This is quite close to me. I'm going to lean Gina Phillips just because I think she's a little bit stronger screen presence wise. Her character's a little bit tougher than Lily's is. And she's definitely in the film more than Lily. Like Lily, her screen time's maybe 50% of it, if not even less. And Gina Phillips is in it from beginning to end. So I'm going to have to lean Gina Phillips here for female lead versus female lead. And thus, Jeepers Creepers gets another point, and it is up 3-1 as we move to category numero cinco. Yes, villain versus villain. Yes, Rusty Nail versus the Creeper. So, Rusty Nail, let's get into this character because this is quite fun when we talk about it. Of course, Ted Levine is the guy they got, and everyone remembers Ted Levine, of course, from Silence of the Lambs, and people who like the show Monk. He was the captain, the police captain on the show Monk. I just love Ted Levine. He has a great presence to him, a great voice. Of course, he was in this movie Toby Hooper directed called The Mangler. Always was a big fan of Ted Levine. I think he's a great, great actor. And that's the guy they got to play Rusty Nail. I think he hit a home run here. But it's interesting and something that we might detour off a little bit here. There were two choices before Ted Levine as Rusty Nail. And I couldn't believe this when I did my show prep this week and read this because I actually laughed out loud when I heard who the original choice was going to be. And the original choice for Rusty Nail was none other than Sylvester Stallone. Could you fucking imagine Sylvester Stallone, Rocky himself, the Italian stallion, Rambo as fucking Rusty Nail? I think that would have been the funniest shit of all time. Hey, yo, I'm looking for candy cane. I got this pink champagne. You know what I mean? That would have been hysterical. Like, when I read that, I literally had to hold my sides. That's how hard I laughed. I was like, that's fucking amazing. Like, I love that fucking, the initial thought was, let's get fucking Sly. And crazy enough, Sly was also the original choice for Stuntman Mike, which a lot of people don't remember. I know people always bring up Mickey Rourke, but Stallone was offered the script and even got the script from Quentin Tarantino and turned it down. So it would have been Stallone if he had accepted. And could you imagine that too? Like Stallone as Stuntman Mike? That would have been fucking crazy. Hey, yo, you want to take a ride in my car? I saw your legs. You saw my car. I don't know. Fair lady, you're carrying weights. That would have been fucking amazing. Like, that's like, I would have died if he was Stuntman Mike. Like, hey, yo, my brother is Stuntman Frank Stallone. How you doing? Hey, yo, Adrian. Yo, imagine if they had gotten in Death Proof, like Paulie had been in there. So Burt Young, like, imagine somehow getting Burt Young. Hey, yo, Paulie, he ain't the same no more. This ain't no pie contest. That would have been fucking amazing. Like, Stallone as Rusty Nail would have been fucking great. Like, hey, yo, I showed up with the pink champagne. Nobody was there. Or like, I don't know, like, it would have been amazing. I will say this. I have watched Joyride way more. I just love the characters, and especially Ted Levine's wonderful performance as Rusty Nail. Also, the third act motel sequence is stylish and suspenseful. Dude, great, great analogy there. I'm curious, what do you think about the alternate ending? Because I like the alternate ending better. Nikki Screams says, Elmo, I'm way ahead of you. Yeah, no. Hey, yo, Nikki Screams. How you doing? I saw your car. I can't. Yeah, no. Imagine Stallone as Rusty Nail like that. hey, yo, I want you to strip down, take off your clothes, and go to the diner and order 12 cheeseburgers. Like, that would have been fucking amazing. I wish to God in an alternate world that it happened, and just so I could hear it and laugh. But he was choice number one. They wanted Stallone. They couldn't get Stallone. That didn't happen. The second choice, and actually, if you watch the alternate ending, you hear this voice. So this voice, it is in an alternate cut. You can hear the voice, is Eric Roberts. Eric Roberts, yes, brother of Julia, uncle of fucking shithead Roberts from Scream 4. I can't think of her damn name. Emma Roberts. Eric Roberts was the second choice, and you can actually hear his voice on the 29-minute alternate ending as Rusty Nail. Now, it's not nearly as effective, it's not nearly as intimidating, it's not nearly as scary, but it is an alternate cut where you can hear his voice. So I thought that was quite interesting. I wish there was the alternate cut where you could hear Stallone, the Stallone cut, because that would just be the greatest fucking thing ever. Like, hey, yo, I'm in room 7. Like, that would have been amazing. Let's see. If I can have candy canes, if you can have candy canes if I can have candy canes, then you can have candy canes. Everybody can have candy canes. Like him crying in Russia, and then the prime minister of Russia, fucking going on a Rocky IV hiatus, man. Hey yo, candy cane. Hey yo, where's candy cane? Okay, I just ordered the Joyride DVD. It's been quite a long time since I've seen it. Excellent. Very cool. Yeah, no, let me know if you watch the alternate ending, because that is the ending I prefer. I'm going to get into that alternate ending and the differences between the theatrical versus the alternate ending. So stay tuned for that, because that's our last category. But let's get back to villain versus villain. I'm sorry. I went off on a Stallone tangent where I was just having too much fun. I apologize. But of course, Eric Roberts, Stallone, they were considered, and the guy they got was of course Ted Levine, and I think Ted Levine hit a fucking home run here, man. Like, his voice is creepy, intimidating. It literally sends shivers up your spine when you hear him talk. I mean, it's a tremendous performance, and we never see Rusty Nail. The entire performance is just a voice over the radio, the CB radio, and it makes an impact. That's strength, man. I can't name a lot of villains where, okay, you don't see them, so how much credibility can they have if we don't see them? The answer to that is, if you got a voice like Ted Levine as Rusty Nail in Joyride, very fucking strong. I think he knocks it out of the park in this. And like I said, I like that they went for more of a humanization of him. And when I think about his whole setup, I do feel bad for the character in some ways. Now, what he did was not justified, but I do feel bad for the character. Let's look at how it's all set up. So Paul Walker and Steve Zahn, they're playing with the CB radio, and they're making funny, voices and stuff. And of course, Paul Walker, hey, I'm Candy Cane, and of course, they get Rusty Nail to take the bait. He thinks that it's a woman. Hey, Candy Cane. There's talking back and forth. And, hey, baby, why don't you come to my motel room? It's all cold and lonely. Bring some pink champagne. And, of course, he believes it. And they do it to set up this prick that's in the other room. And, of course, Rusty Nail shows up in the pouring rain with the pink champagne, and he's excited to meet this woman. And, of course, it's a practical joke gone wrong. And thus he kills this person in the room and then sets out his vendetta against them. Part of me does feel bad. That's a shitty thing to do to someone who was completely uninvolved in this thing. Like, he didn't have to get involved. He was innocent party, and they set him up. And it wasn't right. And I do feel a slight sympathetic feel, in my opinion, for the Rusty Nail character. I like that they humanized him, and they even have him open up to Lily. And like I was saying in that scene, now they know how it feels to be the fucking punchline, how shitty that is to do to someone. And like I said, it wasn't at all called for or justified, but it was definitely, in my opinion, a nice way to humanize your villain while they're still evil. Like, it's a nice gray area, and I like that about Rusty Nail. I think the gray area here is so well tackled, in my opinion. On the other hand, we have the Creeper, this monster. For every 23rd spring, for 23 days, he gets to eat. And whatever he eats becomes a part of him. If he eats eyes, he uses them to see. If he eats hearts to beat, legs to walk, all of this stuff. He dresses like a man. He drives a truck, all of these things. He ties up all the bodies and keeps them, kind of preserved. it's a sick idea. It's a quite disturbing idea, the creeper here. And I think it's also, really disturbing when you know about the backstory and history of the director. And we'll get into that piece of shit director. But I think there's a part of the villain that he wrote to be a part of himself. And I think that's actually horrific and horrifying when you think about it. The director was a creep in real life, and the villain in the movie is a creep. So, in a fucked up way, it works in making the villain work. And it's quite terrifying when you think about it. I remember, giving the thing wings and flies around, and it smells the fear off of you. It doesn't necessarily want everything. It just wants certain parts from certain people. Creepy. I think a creepy kind of take on a monster, different type of take. And I like the design. I like Jonathan Breck in the role. I think he does a good job in the first two Jeepers Creepers movies. He's also in part 3, but better left on talking about that one. I like Jonathan Breck as the Creeper. I think the Creeper is a good villain. But for me, I think this is a slam dunk for Rusty Nail. I think Rusty Nail is great. Like I said, you never fucking see him. It's all voice. It's all humanization. It's that gray area villain that I always like. I know most people like black and white, pro and antagonist, right? They don't really like when you dip into gray area or have to feel any sort of sympathy or empathy for your villains. I get that. I personally like that. I like when you humanize somebody, because this was just a poor trucker trying to have a night of passion, stuck in the rain with pink champagne. And because of this horrible act that they did to him, things turn south and the movie goes on from there. So point for me for Joyride. Joyride's back on the board. We're back. It's 3-2 in favor of Jeepers Creepers right now. Let me get back to the comments, though, because we had a bunch. Let's see. I think we were here. I found the alternate ending too confusing. Okay, interesting. What was confusing about it to you, Miss C? Ted Levine is such an awesome actor. I love his performance in The Mangler, Joyride, Silence of the Lambs. I mentioned all 3 of those. I love those movies, too. I always swear in my head I could see Candy Cane in the shadows at the end of the hotel. Oh, really? I wasn't aware of Stallone being involved with Joyride, and that definitely would have brought more recognition to the movie. Oh, sure. And they probably would have had to pay Stallone a lot of fucking money to do it, just to give his voice. And they had a lot of money. I mean, they had like a $20-something million budget. This was not a movie that was made with no budget. Jeepers Creepers was a $10 million budget. Joyride had 20 to 25 million. So Joyride definitely had way more money. It had J.J. Abrams as producers and writers. So that's quite interesting before J.J. really blew up. Interesting, and I agree, John. Excellent. Thank you, man. I can't imagine anyone playing Rusty Nail besides Ted. Yeah, no, me neither. But when I heard Stallone, I won't lie, I laughed very hard. I heard they didn't get that actor back for the direct-to-video sequels. That's why I never bothered with them. Yeah, no, you can't replace Ted Levine. Like, I'm surprised they couldn't get Ted Levine to do it again. Like, I don't know if it was a pay issue. I don't know if it was he really believed in that character issue. Because in the sequels, you do see Rusty Nail. And, like Ben was saying before, he becomes much more slasherific, and it didn't work. He almost like Jigsaw by the third one. Like, it's like Saw games or something. I don't know. I don't like it, the third one at all. Mr. Dan is here. Mr. Dan in horror. Welcome, my friend. Hope all is well with you. I believe in the third one, it's Ken Kersinger playing Rusty Nail, which is quite interesting. I think this Joyride is a big part of why I hate pranks and practical jokes. Yeah, and it's a nice thing to delve into, in my opinion. I haven't seen Ted Levine anything lately, and apparently he's still acting at 65. Yeah, no, he's aged really bad. Like, he looks quite terrible for his age. But no, I love Ted Levine. I think he makes Joyride. Like, I think he's a big reason as to why that movie works. But let's move on into our 6th category out of 10. This is director versus director. Of course, John Dahl on the top, the director of Joyride. And, of course, on the bottom, the disgusting, hated Mr. Victor Salva. This is a tough category, to be honest, and not for the reasons that it would be close as much as it would be, talking about Victor Salva. Let's talk about John Dahl first. Let's start this thing off positively. Now, John Dahl is a guy I love, and I think he should have gone on to do movies and film, and because I really like most of his work. He had just come off directing in 1998 a little movie called Rounders, which is with Matt Damon and Edward Norton, and I love that movie. It's the poker movie for any poker Texas Hold'em fans out there. It's a movie about Texas Hold'em, and Matt Damon's down in his luck. Martin Landau's in the film. It's a great movie. I mean, I love Rounders. I think it's the best card movie that they ever made, in my opinion. And John Dahl directed the fuck out of that. I mean, John Turturro's in it. It's just a tremendous film. I love Rounders. Any Rounders fans in the house, let yourself be heard, because I love that movie. He directed that and then turns around and then goes straight to the horror world, because Rounders was a flop. Then, unfortunately, Joyride did not make all that much money. So, after this, he made maybe two more feature length movies, and then he went directly, almost exclusively, into television for the rest of his career, even to this day. John Dahl is a television film director mainly. And I think that's a shame because I like the direction he brings to Joyride. Number one, I think it's very stylistic. I think it's very slick looking movie. Someone, I think Connor was mentioning before how he gradually builds attention, and I agree with that. I think he does a great job at that. There's a really good scene, a couple of good scenes in the motel room where he uses bright primary colors. He uses this nice red tint where, you know, the two characters, Paul Walker and Steve Zahn, they're standing next to the painting trying to listen to what's going on in the other room, and he does this slow, almost like a Jess Franco zoom from the back of the room all the way into the painting in this nice red tint. Really good visual. Of course, he uses this green tint at a point. It's a very colorful film when you look at it. I like the color palette that John Dahl brought to this movie. And I will be honest, I didn't think he would be able to bring all of that to the forefront. I was thinking, man, like he hasn't had that much experience. But it goes to show you that, you know, a good director doesn't really need experience. They know what they're doing. And John Dahl knew what he was doing. And it's a shame that the movies he made didn't necessarily do well enough box office wise to continue him getting good jobs. And instead he had to go to TV, where in my opinion, you're very much more confined in TV. Like film, you can reach out depending on the studio. Television, you're so confined because you have, you know, it's episodic. It's you know, you're not going to get much chance to do stylistic things because, okay, next week's episode, they don't give a fuck. Like back onto the standard palette, the standard format. And I feel bad for John Dahl for that because I think he directed the hell out of Joyride. And I think it's a damn effective horror film. Of course, and then we have Victor Salva, or as I call him, Dictor Salva. I won't lie. I think he does a good job directing. I think the film is scary. I think the film builds tension in a good way, similar way to Joyride. I will say, though, that I can't really separate the art from the artist in this situation. Like, I do think he's a vile piece of shit human being. And, of course, if you don't know, I get a little bit into that because we are talking about director versus director. He, of course, was charged and arrested in, of course, sexually abusing a little boy on his first movie, Clown House, where he sexually assaulted a boy and filmed it on camera. And he did 18 months in prison, which in my opinion is not long enough. He should still be in fucking prison. That's some sick shit. But he got out, of course. And then, of course, Francis Ford Coppola, his buddy, decided, hey, I'll give you money to make your horror movie. And, you know, that's why Victor Salva got to direct this movie. Now, I like the movie, I do, but I do not like Victor Salva as a human being. I think he's an irrepressible piece of shit, and I am not giving him any credit past of what I've already said. So I will go slam dunk John Dahl here, and we're going to be even. Joyride gets the point. We are deadlocked at 3-3 through 6. I'm super excited as this thing catches on. Now let's go back to comments. I think we were here. Mr. Dan says, I think my version has the option of Eric Roberts as Rusty Nail. Oh, okay, yeah, see, that's right. I know in the alternate ending it's Eric Roberts, but I don't know if you could watch the whole film with Eric Roberts. That would be interesting. I don't know. I wouldn't. I've heard I like the alternate ending better, but I definitely, it misses Ted Levine. That's like the only problem with the alternate ending. Kurzinger is Rusty in Joyride 3. Okay. Last I saw Ted Levine was in Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom. That's right. That's right. And the Endoraptor bites his arm off. He was good in that, man. Yeah, and also Big Sky TV show, and it seems like TV is his bread and butter now. Yeah, no, him and John Dahl, man, they went right to TV. Rounders is good. I think he made Red Rock West way back. That's right. I believe you're right about that, Mr. Dan. Joyride is a very stylish, slick-looking film, great color palette, and John Dahl had a great story to boot as well. I agree. I think John Dahl did a great job. I would say John Dahl was slam dunk winner here. I'm big into poker. Rounders was very good compared to other movies that tackle poker. I agree. I'm a huge Texas Hold'em guy too, Mateo. So I agree. I love that movie, and I think Damon is great in it. I remember there's a great line. I know you're a big baseball guy too, where he goes back to play Teddy KGB. And he says, you know, I'm like Buckner walking back into Shea. I love that line, man. I don't know. I just love that line. Of course, a little Mets, you know, nod there. But yeah, Rounders I love. I think Rounders is a great movie. It's a shame to me. The guy that made this and Rounders wanted to do just television. It was like, not like your films didn't make that much money. It's a shame. I'm surprised Rounders was not a big hit. I know Rounders made poker popular. Like after that movie hit, the World Series of Poker, like in 2003, I think, when Chris Moneymaker won, then it just like the main event now gets 7,000 people that enter, 10 grand buy-in, and it's like an $8 million prize, something crazy like that. Like I'm a big Texas Hold'em guy, so I'm a sucker for rounders. John Dahl did some episodes of Hannibal, and those were incredibly stylish. Hell, that whole show was stylish. That's all. Yeah, no, I would say that, if it's a show for HBO or Showtime, you definitely have more of a, capacity. But I think if he's stuck doing a CBS or NBC, something like that, then you're confined. Like NCIS, it's a good show, but you're never going to watch that show and be like, oh, this was really well directed. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good show. I like the show, but it's not, from a stylistic standpoint, it's not what that show is about. It's story, it's characters, it's plot. That's what that show is kind of built on. So I think when you take a guy that can bring a style like that into TV, you're sort of crippling their talent, unless it's the right thing. But Hannibal would have been a right thing. I believe he might have done some Ray Donovan. He's done a lot of good stuff. So I love John Dahl. Yeah, the director was a real creeper, and I do not care to. He's just a piece of shit. He kept it a little too real. I would say that for sure. I had no idea about Salva until way after the movie came out. No, that's true. A lot of people didn't know that, and I know there are some people that they can't, like, now that they know that, they can't watch Jeepers Creepers and not think about that, and it ruins the movie for people. I totally understand that. I won't lie, I do think it's a damn good movie, and it's one that I watch almost every October. It's like a October viewing movie for me. It's perfect October view. But with that being said, it doesn't, excuse, or it's disgusting what the guy did. He's a piece of shit, whether I like the movie or not. But I do like the movie pretty much. Yeah, exactly. So let's move on, though. John Dahl ties it up at 3-3. We've got 4 more categories to go. Music versus music, the next one. This one is I actually can't go into too much depth because I think it's a slam dunk for Jeepers Creepers. Joyride has a pretty atrocious soundtrack. There's some really bad music choices in this, where there's like a country song, and I apologize for anybody if you like country, but it's fucking horrible song. The song is like ride on, and it's like, it's so bad that it makes you want to fucking stab yourself in the fucking face. That song in particular, there's not much of a score here. I don't know, musically this movie leaves a lot to be desired. However, this movie, I like the soundtrack. I like the score. I like some of the songs used, like the Jeepers Creepers old school 50s song. I like that they use that in here with Jeepers Creepers. Where'd you get those eyes, Tina? I like that. I like that song. I like the hush, hush, hush goes the boogeyman. I like that. And of course, the scene where they're driving and the creeper lands on the police car with the like kind of scythe axe thing, and they're playing that song Peekaboo, Peekaboo Jeepers, where'd you get those eyes? I love that song. That's a great, like, you're driving in the car with friends, blast that shit. I love that song. It's a really, really good song. So I don't know, for me, slam dunk for the music for Jeepers Creepers. That's a category we can just kind of, I think it's a slam dunk. I think the music in Joyride is the worst thing about it. I wish they had gotten a better musical score and used better songs. This is really like the soundtrack glares 2001. That country, the ride on, ride. Oh my God. Like, when I rewatched it for show prep, I was like, make it stop. Like, fucking, like, la, 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 like, horrible fucking song. And to the point where my buddy who I watched it with, he was like, dude, he was laughing at my reaction because I was like, I can't fucking take this. Like, this is some badass music. And not badass in a good way, bad in a bad way. I try to look beyond real life flaws with celebrities and just enjoy the movies for what they are. I do too. Listen, like, I'm not a political guy at all. I don't ever get into politics. And a lot of actors are political, and I think it can ruin people on them. Like, if you don't agree with their politics, you hate them, whatever. I don't talk politics at all. And I never let politics influence what I think about an actor's performance or a director or whatever. I do think, though, a criminal offense to that point, I think, that I think is fucking, I could judge you. That's at least how I look at it. Like, to me, like, that's beyond, and it's not even like his word against somebody else's word. It's, he filmed it. Like, it's proof, So I would say boo on him. Fuck him. He's a piece of shit. Oh my God, Aiden, that song is horrible. It is one of the worst songs of all time. I hate that fucking song. Even the opening, like when they're dry, like, oof, man, some of the music in this is quite bad. I'd say the only knock I have on Joyride is the music. I don't like the music in this film. So yeah, Jeepers Creepers goes right back in the front. It's 4-3 Creepers with 3 categories to go. Writing versus writing. Another one we're going to pretty much gloss over here because I think it's sort of a smaller category. Of course, we have J.J. Abrams and Clay Tarver. They wrote Joyride. And of course, Victor Salva was also the writer and director for Jeepers Creepers. Now, I'll say this. I like the writing slightly better in Joyride here. And the reason for that is I like the characters a little bit better. Like I definitely, while I think Gina Phillips and Justin Long do a better job acting wise, I like some of the dialogue here in Joyride slightly better. I love when Paul Walker gets in trouble and, hey man, you really fucked up. And he says to Paul Walker, he says, hey man, you know what? People fuck up all the time. You know what? In 100 years, nobody's going to care. I'll be dead and nobody's going to care. I like that. I think that's a good line. Like, he's just like, you know what? Yeah, 100 years, no one's going to give a shit. Like, I'm a fuck up. Like, what do you want me to do? I like that. I like some of the interaction, like between the 3 of them when they're all talking at the bar. There's a fun scene where Lily is hit on by these kind of country redneck bar guys and, hey, hey, bitch, don't be out of line. They're telling her not to be out of line. And you could see that Paul Walker's like trying to be like, hey, I'm going to fight for my girl. And they're like, is this your bitch? And at first he doesn't say anything. And then Steve Zahn kind of bursts into the scene. He's like, bitch whore, get out of here. You not be mouthing off. I'm sorry. I'll keep a leash on her next time. And he walks out of the bar with her. I thought that was such a funny scene, like such good writing, because usually it would end in a fight and whatever. No, it didn't go there. Like Steve Zahn knew they were losing that fight. So let's get her out of here. Let's get her out of Dodge. Paul Walker don't say a word, and then we'll get out of Dodge. I like that. And I think the writing in Joyride is just a little bit better. I like this writing. It goes for like more neo-slasher writing, which it's clever in spots, but I would lean towards the writing here. Joyride. So Joyride for me, Jar Jar Abrams won something on my show. That's something because I hate his ass. It's funny with Guillermo del Toro, if he produces it, not directs it, odds are I'm not going to like it. If he directs it, not produces it, I know I'm going to like it. I know Del Toro, if he's directing it, I'm in good hands. With Jar Jar Abrams, the opposite. If he produces it, odds are I'll like it. I like, the Cloverfield movies. I like, some of the stuff he's produced, Joyride. If he directs it, it just doesn't hit. The Star Wars 7 and fucking, what was it? Mission Impossible 3. I've just never been a big Jar Jar Abrams guy. If he directs it, I run away. If he produces it, I might be interested, So I don't know. It's one of those things for me. Let's see. The music choice of Joyride is not good, but the acting, directing, script, and stylish look make me enjoy that film so much. Although a good score can make any film a little better. Yeah, no, I agree. I would say, yeah, that's the downfall of that. So that's why Jeepers Creepers slam dunk on that one. The script in Joyride I like so much better. Same here. I'm definitely going Joyride here. I think the script is really well written, no matter which version you watch. So we are deadlocked at 4-4 with 2 categories to go. Holy shit. And these last 2 are biggies. So let's get into them. Scare sequences versus scare sequences. Yes, which film of the 2 is scarier? Right? It's a horror film. We got to ask the question, which one is scarier, right? This is arguably the toughest category. I think this is the toughest category of this whole thing. Because I think they're both effective in their scares, right? And their scare sequences we can go over. Of course, the best scene in the film Joyride is when they think that Rusty Nail is following them, right? Like they're talking with him on the radio. And I actually have one of the quotes here that Steve Zahn says. Rusty Nail tells them to apologize after they admit that it was a joke. It was a practical joke go wrong. And Steve Zahn blows up on him. No, listen, you sick fuck, you pathetic, lonely, walkie-talkie freak show motherfucker. You're not getting anything from me. You know why? Because I know I have something more powerful than psychosis. It's called a volume knob. And the only thing I have to do to make you go away is turn it counterclockwise. You got that? You copy that? And Rusty Nail, without missing a beat, Black Sheep, you really ought to get that fixed. Get what fixed? Your tail light. When he says that, the movie, like, it goes from, okay, you're fine, like, it's not scary yet, we're not into that horror. When he says that simple, your tail light, that movie changes right there. It's like, bam, gear shift. I'm fucking on the edge of my seat now. And they get off at the nearest exit to this gas station, and they believe that this other truck might be Rusty Nail, and it's so tension filled, and their acting is great without saying a word. Paul Walker has to sell the fear with his eyes. Steve Zahn has to sell the fear with his eyes and their kind of expression. So good, man. I love that scene. To me, it's the best scene in either one of these movies, is that sequence in the gas station. It's so fucking well done. I mean, fantastic. As they're in there, and then of course they run out, they get into the car, and the guy in the ice truck is chasing them, and hey man, stay back, we got a gun, and I got a Visa card. It's an imposter, similar to Duel, right? He shows the card, hey man, relax, I'm just returning your card, your bank card. And oh my god, okay, thank god. And of course, as the guy's backing up, bam, Rusty Nail drives right through the guy's truck and chases them, and hey man, we're sorry, we were just playing around. I was just playing around too, man. Love that. To me, a wonderful scare sequence. Like, horror done perfect, in my humble opinion. I love that sequence. It's just tremendous to me, and it's the best scene in either movie. So I love that scare sequence in particular, but that's not to say that Jeepers Creepers doesn't have some great scare sequences, because it does. It really does. I used the thumb here of the creeper when he's pretending to be the scarecrow, and how scary that scene is, unsettling that scene is, where the old woman comes out with the shotgun, that ain't my scarecrow, and shoots at it, and the creeper enters her house, and you just hear cats screaming, and you can only imagine what's going on, what the creeper's doing to the cats, and she runs back in. No, lady, stop, get out of my damn way. She tries to go back in the house to save her cats, because she's crazy old cat lady, and she goes back into the house, and fucking you just hear all this craziness go on, and the creeper just walks out and lets her go down. And I like how he doesn't run at them to the car, he just slowly is walking, like he's buttering you up, man. That's scary. I think the creeper and how that scare sequence is done is so powerful. I mean, I really like how that's directed, and I think it's a good scare sequence. And there's a lot of good scare sequences in the movie. Like, I think the opening is quite horrifying when the creeper is behind them honking the truck. Go around me, and hey, I got an idea from where you come from, inbreeding, like yelling out the window. I love that. I think that's great. I think that's a horrifying way to open a film, like a truly terrifying way to open up a film. And if you have like a surround sound or a soundbar subwoofer, if you watch the opening of Jeepers Creepers with an effective sound system, it's even more like, holy shit, like you kind of like clinch up a little bit. It's an effective scare sequence. So this is a really hard category for me, man. It's almost a tie, but I have to pick one here. So let's go to comments before I do. Overlord is a really good film, produced by, yes, exactly. He's a good producer. I'm not really a Star Trek guy, so I'm not the right person to ask. I saw it once, Mateo, and I forgot the film, to be perfectly honest. So I really don't want to take a vote there. I'm sorry. Overall, most of the stuff I've seen directed by him, I don't like, though. I would say in generality, I would say I'm not a J.J. Abrams fan. I got to give Overlord another watch, as I didn't care for it when I saw it. Yeah, I liked the film. I remember going into it thinking this might be Cloverfield 4, so I had those expectations, and it's not. So I don't know. Jeepers Creepers, for me, the first time I saw the creature, let alone a creature being the killer, I really expected it to be a deformed human. Yeah, no, that's the thing. It easily could have been a human, too. And part of me wonders if that might have worked, because in Joyride it works. But I like that it ends up being a creature. It ends up being this monster movie in a way, like a unique monster movie. I don't know. I think it's interesting in that way too. So I don't know. I like both these movies. Like, I think both these movies do a really good job. And scare sequences to me is the toughest category, because I'm having a hard time deciding on this. You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go Joyride. While I think maybe Jeepers Creepers is scarier as a whole. Man, now I'm thinking of Jeepers Creepers. I don't know, man. Should we go back to this one? I think we're going to have to go back to this one, man. I'm sorry, because the next one's our last category. So let's – oh, man, this is so tough. Okay, Nikki's trying to break the tie. Joyride. You know what? I said Joyride initially, so we'll go Joyride as the scarier of the films. I don't know. But I do think Jeepers Creepers is scarier, but I do think that Joyride is the scarier sequences. I don't know. That's such a hard category for me, man. I don't know. Overlord is a silly grindhouse type film, but Planet Terror digital filter, and it works in that regard. Yeah, no, sure. Definitely agree with that. All right, so we're going to give the point to Joyride. I've argued enough about it. I think it's really close, though, and I could be persuaded, so we maybe go back to that one. But finally, the last category here tonight on Grande's Graveyard, it is ending versus ending. Connor weighs in. He says, Joyride actually made me afraid to drive on a rural road. Okay, so, but I would say that, Jeepers Creepers is scary, too, and it is fucking horrifying in that way. But, I agree, man. It is... I don't know. It's so close to me that which one's scarier. I think Jeepers going to come out on top. It's close, man. Like that category is the toughest to me. Like I think they're both really scary films. Like I would say Jeepers Creepers maybe scares me more when I think about it. But Joyride is a very effectively scary film as well. I'd say scary because he's human and it's possible to happen. Yeah, no, definitely. I would agree with that. It's definitely something that could happen. So, yeah, for sure. But at the same time, me thinking about my eyes being eaten and my heart being eaten and this fucking winged creature trying to murder me every 23 springs, that's some pretty horrific shit, too. I don't know. I think they're both quite scary. That's a hard category for me, man. We might go back to it. For now, though, Joyride takes a 5-4 lead into the final category. Ending versus ending. Now, let's go over both of these because it's funny. I prefer the alternate ending of Joyride better. And I know there's like 4 alternate endings, but the full alternate, like the half-hour alternate ending, I like way better. And it's the ending I actually always watch. There's an option on this DVD that when you get to the point where they go into the diner and they're naked, you can have this thing on the menu where you can click alternate ending and it takes you to the alternate ending. And I like that ending way better. Basically, the alternate ending is the 2 brothers. They go to, try to rescue the girl Charlotte. They don't. Lily gets taken. And then basically Steve Zahn, which is why I have this thumb up here, he's dressed up as a cop in this scene. If you watch the theatrical cut, that never happens in the theatrical cut. But here, he actually gets to dress up as a cop and he pulls Rusty Nail over. And I thought that was an interesting full circle for Steve Zahn's character because this guy, his whole life, he's been running from the law. And here he is in the third act. I'm impersonating a police officer while Paul Walker goes into the back of Rusty Nail's truck and it's tension-filled and he's trying to get Lily out. And then basically he chases them through this cornfield and they throw this propane tank in front of Rusty's truck. And in similar vein to Jaws, it's basically Jaws on land where they're shooting at the propane tank, bam, and the truck explodes. And the movie kind of, wraps up from there. You have this fun, scene in the hospital where Steve Zahn says, I actually want to go home. His characters come full circle. He was this guy running away from his life and running away from the law. Now at the end, he's come full circle and he's dressing up as a police officer to confront the villain. And of course, by the end, he wants to go home. And of course, in this alternate ending version, Paul Walker and Lily end up together. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They make out in the hospital and Rusty Nail is dead. There's no sequel bait. Our characters kind of come full circle. Our 2 lovers are going to be in love, and Steve Zahn's going to go home because he's really realized the error of his ways and has grown as a person. I love that ending. To me, 10 out of 10 ending. The theatrical ending, I like it. It's basically this sequence where they have Lily tied up and the shotgun pointed at her face. And it's a nice stylistic scene. And of course, Steve Zahn's trying to, don't break down the door. Don't open the door. I like that. And then, of course, the running truck. And it's okay. But I don't like the sequel bait. That's the one, because they did end up making a bad sequel to this. And the third sequel is even worse. So, I mean, it is what it is. But I don't like the sequel bait ending where you hear Rusty Nail on the radio and they're all in the ambulance. And you don't really get closure. You don't get closure with Steve Zahn's character. You don't know if Lily's going to end up with one guy or the other. It's kind of just a, cliffhanger. And I don't know if I like that. I really, if you watch the alternate ending, slam dunk. But theatrical ending, This movie, though, had an initial ending that they never shot because it was originally supposed to be $11 million budget movie. They took $1 million away, bumped it down to $10 million, and the original ending got scrapped. The original ending was Justin Long's character was going to drive the Creeper's truck while the Creeper was in the back, and he was going to drive into a train, and the train was going to wipe them both out, and thus we think the Creeper's dead. Justin Long sacrifices himself to try to kill the Creeper. That never got shot. That never materialized, and that's because they took the budget cut. They didn't have the money to shoot that. While that doesn't sound great either, the ending here I've always felt this has House of Thousand Corpses syndrome, where I love House of Thousand Corpses until the last 15 minutes. This movie kind of has that same thing for me, where the last 15 minutes, iffy, right? You get this really bad character, the Giselle. I'm the psychic lady who knows all the exposition, and I can see things in my dreams, and it's horrible. It's like the biggest like fuck it. Here's the explanation. Like eat this peas on the spoon, if you will. It's atrocious writing, atrocious. Like it's really bad. But with that said, I do like Justin Long's performance there. And like I said, the Jeepers Creepers, right? Who hears Jeepers Creepers screaming in the dark? And that last kind of where you see the Creepers lair and they're playing the song, where'd you get those eyes? How they hypnotize? And you see his eyes have been ripped out. He's jaw dropped and the Creeper looks through his eyes, fade to black. I like that. The last like shot, I love it. I think that very like as you leave the screen, it's a, oh shit. Like he's still out there, motherfucker. That's a better sequel bait ending to me and more fitting for that movie. But the fucking shit in the police station never worked for me. Oh, it looks like he took a bite out of somebody. No, just no. Like, I don't care for that ending and the fucking, the crazy psychic lady. Like, I not even that she did a bad job acting. It's just a very poor writing to me. Like, I don't know. It's just me, but it is what it is. Let's go back to comments though. Don is here. Hey man, dude. Don and me years ago, we did an episode on Joyride Jeepers Creepers back in the Flashback Horror Movie Podcast days. You're talking 6 years ago now. And he's the one that made me realize how similar these movies were. And they came out, like I said, a month apart. And I think it's really close. That's why I wanted to do a versus episode on this. So Don, I'm so happy to see your name, man. Hope all is well with you. Put it in the poll, Grande, so we can vote on it. Which one's scarier? I did put a poll up of which movie you like better, and Joyride won the poll on YouTube. Instagram, Jeepers Creepers cleaned house. That alternate ending for Joyride is so much fun and satisfying, but theatrical ending screams like studio interference. It is, and I know they reshot that. That's the reshot ending. The original ending is the alternate ending, and I think that was fine. You know, but again, without that ending we get in the movie, we wouldn't have got Ted Levine. It would have been Eric Roberts as Rusty Dale. And who knows? Maybe it could have even been Sly Stallone. Hey, oh, Candy Cane, how you doing? I mean, that would have been something. The ending for Jeepers Creepers 1 ruins the whole film for me. Very lackluster. I can't argue with that. Whereas I like the last 2 minutes. I love that. It's creepy and the hush, hush, hush goes the boogeyman. I like that. The fucking scene in the police station, it completely, it's like it gets derailed and it hurts it for me. I don't know which part you're laughing at. Maybe my imitation of the psychic lady. I don't know. The psychic lady's bad. The end of Jeepers Creepers isn't exactly the best. Okay, last shot is really good in Jeepers Creepers, but the police station stuff is incredibly shitty. Yeah, I agree. Gotta agree, disagree. I mean, to me, you never know what's really going on till the end of Jeepers Creepers. Yeah, no, absolutely. Jeepers Creepers is going to tie it. LO, but not really. I would say I'm going to have to go Joyride here. I think, especially if it's alternate ending, no question Joyride. Straight up, it's closer because I do not like the theatrical ending of Joyride as much as the alternate. But with that being said, I do think even the alternate ending is a little bit better. It's a little bit more like we know what we're fucking doing with it, as opposed to the fucking crazy psychic bitch. And, oh my God, I see terrible things in my dreams. Every time I see that lady, I'm like, oh, fuck, it's this part. Even the guy in the police department's like, oh, it's this fucking bitch. And it's quite, I don't know, no second to last category. No, this is the last category. So in that case, Joyride takes 6-4 out of 10, and therefore the winner of the Versus episode is none other than Joyride. Joyride goes over. I know. I will say this, the scare sequences, you could really make a good argument, I think, for this movie being scarier. I do. And in that case, it would tie. But I'm going to say overall, I think this is the better movie. I lean towards this one a little bit. Now, with that being said, I watch this every October. This movie, I could watch any time, but I definitely think I've rewatched this more. So with that being said, and I think it's more of a fun October, just atmospheric fall weather movie. and I love it. I go back to it a lot, but I would lean towards Joyride here. I think Joyride has got to take the cake here in this battle of the 2001 road horror movies released about a month apart. So very fun little option and topic here. Joyride is one of my go-to fun movies. Yes, and if you're a fan of the film and you like commentaries, Don and I about a couple years back, we did a fan commentary on Joyride together, which was a lot of fun talking about that movie with you. And it was one of my viewers, James, that suggested, he said, man, you got to do more Versus episodes. I love those Versus episodes. And that's when I sat down and decided, I said, yeah, you know what? Let me do one. And I watched Joyride over the weekend. I said, you know what? Let's do it. Joyride versus Jeepers Creepers. I think it's really, really close. And it seems to be a split decision in the community. I saw a lot of people say Jeepers. I saw a lot of people say Joyride. So it's very fun kind of discussion because they're very similar and they're very good in quality. So I think that's a fun kind of topic to tackle here on Grande's Graveyard. So if you guys, think Jeepers Creepers is better, of course, and you're catching the replay, comment down below. Let me know why. Let me know what you'd have as the scorecard for yours, out of the 10 categories where you'd rate which film you think is better. I'm going to lean Joyride myself. I like Joyride a little bit better, but again, you can't go wrong with either film. Boo! I'm mostly kidding. I don't know. Both really great movies. Tough choice. Yeah, no, I like both movies too. And no worries. You could boo me at all. But I would lean Joyride. Joyride is such a fun movie. Watch it once every year. It's a good one. Tom is here, getting here late. Just my 2 cents. Jeepers Creepers is a scarier movie. Love the scare screen. Joyride was a lame mix of The Hitcher and Duel. Wow. Okay, so not a fan of Joyride. I could almost agree that Joyride is scary. Jeepers Creepers is scarier. Like that's the hardest point for me. But I think you make a good point. I definitely think that it's that Scarecrow screen this area. I went in depth on that Scarecrow screen. So welcome, Tom. I don't know. I love The Hitcher and I love Duel. I would even argue I think both those movies might be better than these. That would be a fun one. Imagine they did the Duel and Hitcher. That would be a lot of fun, man. Rutger Hauer is great in The Hitcher. And I love Duel. That's one of my favorite Spielberg films. So I don't know. Maybe on a future episode, we could do those two. That would be a lot of fun. Connor Nelson, I know what you did last summer versus Urban Legend. It's not a bad idea, Muddy. That's not a bad idea. I'll tell you what, I like to make, as long as I think it's close enough for myself, because sometimes biases come into play, right? Like there's certain movies where it's like, oh, I don't even think it's close. Those two would be pretty close. Off the top of my head, I would go Urban Legend. But if I sat down one category by category, who knows? Who knows who would turn out? So that would be something definitely we could tackle down the road. I like these Versus episodes. So like I said, if you guys have recommendations for Versus episodes, feel free to throw them out there. I definitely hear you out. JC, for me, just more fun scare movie. Definitely. I can't argue with that. Jeepers Creepers concept is pretty terrifying, but Joyride could actually happen in real life. So Joyride is scarier in that aspect for me, but I prefer Jeepers Creepers a little more. I think that's a very fair statement. And honestly, depending on how I sleep, I could totally go that way as well. Scream versus Halloween. Oh man, I love both those movies, but I would definitely think you'd have to go with Halloween. Like, I don't know. Speaking of track movies, I love Maximum Overdrive. Hey, honey, this machine's calling me an asshole. Love Maximum Overdrive. I don't care what Stephen King says. By the way, I saw Creepshow and Christine on the big screen the other day. Really, that is an awesome double feature if you saw them as a double bill. Creepshow celebrated its 40th just a few months ago, and then Christine is celebrating its 40th sometime this year, and it's one of my favorite Carpenters. So, great movies there, man, for sure. But yeah, no, that is the Versus episode, everybody, unless there's anything else anybody wants to discuss. Oh, nice, Dan. I remember you mentioning that last week. Awesome to hear you had a good time. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm kind of jealous, to be perfectly honest. That is a really cool double feature. But yeah, unless anybody wants to talk about anything else, we can call it here. I can give you a slight preview. Tomorrow, yes, you're not hearing wrong, we'll be live again. I promised my good friend Terry from Terrence McGuana's channel that he could come on the Graveyard. He couldn't do Thursday night, so I said, you know what, let me still do a show Thursday. And then Friday, we'll do another one with Terry because Terry can only do Friday. And we're going to be ranking the Romero Dead Saga tomorrow. He's a big Romero Dead fan. And we're going to go through the 6 movies, of course, Night, Dawn, Day, Land, Diary, and Survival. No regrets. And I'm super looking forward to that. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Joyride, I find more satisfying film regardless of which ending. And Jeepers Creepers is fine up until that ending that just destroys the movie for me. Yeah, no, I can see that too. That police station sequence really hurts that movie to me. But again, I still really like the movie. And I go back and watch it probably a lot more. So it is what it is. Yeah, no. And then as for next week's show, right now, I have a very interesting show topic in mind. I've been thinking of discussing Junji Ito and the Japanese Tales of the Macabre, which is a Netflix anime series streaming, and it looks fantastic. And I've watched a few episodes. I quite enjoy it so far, and I'm thinking of covering that. I want to do like all the episodes on that. I think that would be a fun show to do. But that's not set in stone. Something else could come up. It is what it is. Corey, right at the end. Hey, what's up, King Gore? As for House of Thousand Corpses, the ending is such a colorful mess. I kind of enjoy it. Yeah, he threw money at it. That's what Rob Zombie did. He just threw money at it, man. I'm still hurting a little over JC losing, so not much else to say. No. I understand. I'm looking for Candy Cane. If anything, we could all agree that Sylvester Stallone would have been a very fun Rusty Nail. I think that's the moral of this episode of Grande's Graveyard. No matter which side of the fence that you're on, I think both of these are kick-ass, good, fun movies. So, I guess we'll wrap it there. Everybody, I hope that you have a wonderful, safe, happy, healthy weekend. And if you want to tune in tomorrow night, like I said, we'll be live, 8:05, me and my good friend Terry. We'll be talking all things the Romero 6, the Romero Dead Saga. I'm super excited for that. And everybody, I hope you have a wonderful, safe, happy, healthy weekend. Joyride goated. Oh, hell yeah. Okay, Joyride went over. Stallone would have been fun as Rusty Nail and Stuntman Mike. Hell yeah. But I'm still glad we got, Ted Levine and Kurt Russell, respectively. Enjoy the night. Thank you so much. Everyone in the chat, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All this love and support. If you want, give me a like, give me a shout out, give me a sub, whatever. And everyone have a safe, happy, healthy weekend. We will catch you next time only on the Graveyard. Too sweet peace. And we'll catch you next time. Night, everybody.